It is not the increase of consciousness that is the goal, but the increase of power. Nietzsche, the will to power. In an effort to achieve a good life, each of us, consciously or unconsciously, chooses the ultimate value around which to orient our lives. For many, this value is wealth. For others, it is status, social acceptance, happiness, pleasure, love, knowledge, or comfort. In this video, based on the ideas of the 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, we argue that if we want to maximize our health and pleasure, the highest value we should put first is strength. What is good? Anything that increases the feeling of strength, the will to power, the power itself in a person. What is bad? Everything that comes from weakness, not pleasure but more power. Nietzsche, the will to power. Many people associate the concept of power with the ability to control others and subjugate them to one's needs and desires. But this is not the kind of power that Nietzsche had in mind, because for him, the desire to control others is often a manifestation of a hidden weakness or inferiority complex. Or as he writes, the will of the weak to represent some form of superiority, their instinct for workarounds to tyranny over the healthy. Where it cannot be detected, this will to power of the weakest. Nietzsche on the genealogy of morals. Rather than power as Machiavellian control over others, the kind of power Nietzsche saw fit to pursue is the power we embody and express within ourselves. A power, in other words, that is equivalent to what Nietzsche called growth and expansion. Nietzsche, the merry science, or what the contemporary philosopher John Richardson called the strengthening of an already given capacity or activity. Nietzsche values. For example, an athlete who gets stronger increases his or her strength, as does a writer who improves his or her writing, a speaker who improves his or her public speaking skills, or a teacher who improves his or her ability to teach. In his book Nietzsche Values, John Richardson explains that for Nietzsche, the highest and purest form of power is strength is more life, not through mere prolongation, but through raising life to a higher level of capacity and control. Strength is a passage to a higher level, self-surpassing the meaning of my life. Is my growth or strengthening, and this is not merely an expansion, but an elevation, involving the overcoming of previous states of self. John Richardson, Nietzsche Values. Nietzsche's writings provide a guide to achieving this power, and the first step is to formulate a goal that meets 4 conditions. First, the goal must be meaningful and challenging. Second, it must contribute to our health and well-being or the well-being of others. Thirdly, it must contribute to personal excellence. And finally, it must be self-selected, i.e., an expression of our individuality and authentic aspirations. Or as Nietzsche wrote in one of his unpublished notes, why mankind exists should not even bother us. Why you are here, you must ask yourself, and if you have no ready answer, then set goals, high and noble goals. Nietzsche unpublished note, once we have a goal that meets these 4 criteria, the next step to achieving power is to dedicate consistent time each day to fulfilling it. In the process, we will encounter obstacles and resistance. We will be haunted by self-doubt, fear, anxiety, and laziness, lack of time or resources, doubts and criticism from others, or health or relationship issues will hinder our progress. In the context of the pursuit of power, the obstacles and resistance that stand between us and our goal provide an opportunity, because when we face resistance, and if we then push the limits of our minds and bodies to try to overcome it, we increase our strength. Resistance is valuable to someone seeking strength, just as a worthwhile opponent or enemy is valuable to an ambitious warrior. Because, just as a warrior becomes more skilled when he meets a worthy opponent, so resistance functions as a catalyst that drives us to improve our abilities and overcome our weaknesses. Or, as Nietzsche puts it, the will to power can only be manifested against resistance. It seeks what opposes it. All expansion, absorption, growth is an aspiration against something that opposes it. Strong nature needs resistance. Hence it seeks resistance. Nietzsche, the will to power. If we engage in what Nietzsche called the game of resistance and victory, consisting of an obstacle that is overcome and immediately followed by another obstacle that is overcome again. We will increase our strength and ultimately achieve the goal we set out to achieve. And then, the last step in Nietzsche's guide to strength is to leave behind the goal and what we have become, what we have created or achieved, and set a new, greater goal. Whatever I create and however much I love it, I must soon confront it and my love. My will commands it. Nietzsche, thus spake Zarathustra, or as the philosopher Bernard Regenster explains in more detail, he who seeks power should not, strictly speaking, destroy what he has created or hate what he has loved. Instead, he must surpass what he has loved or created. His will to power soon drives him to find any achievement of creativity or the resulting object of a particular desire no longer satisfying, no longer sufficient. The agent who seeks power is not looking for achievements, so to speak, but for achievements. He needs fresh, new, perhaps greater challenges. And this explains why the desire for power takes the form of growth or self-excellence. Bernard Regenster, The Affirmation of Life. In The Will to Power, Nietzsche explains that the pursuit of power has no ultimate goal, unless the joy of the cycle is a goal in itself. Here the circle represents the cycle of choosing a goal, overcoming resistance, increasing our power, achieving the goal, and then leaving our creations and achievements behind and starting a new cycle. In structuring our lives around the pursuit of power, there is no point other than death at which we cease to participate in this cycle, this circle of power. Thus, such a life has no ultimate goal, unless, as Nietzsche explained, we consider the goal to be joy or great happiness, which is the spontaneous consequence of the constant increase in our power. What is happiness? The feeling that strength is growing, that resistance has been overcome. Nietzsche, the Antichrist. Joy is only a symptom of the feeling of achieved power. Man does not seek. Joy accompanies. Nietzsche, The Will to Power. Nietzsche's ethics of power has profound implications for the worldview of modern man. It offers a solution to the eternal problem of suffering. The problem with suffering is that we need a justification or meaning for our suffering. Otherwise, we become prone to nihilism, world weariness, and a depressing hatred of life. Nietzsche formulates this problem in the following passage. Man, the bravest of animals and the most familiar with suffering, does not reject suffering as such. He desires it, he even seeks it, provided he is shown the meaning of it, the purpose of suffering. The meaninglessness of suffering, not suffering in itself, has been the curse that has hung over humanity until now. Nietzsche, on the genealogy of morals. Many religious, philosophical, and political systems throughout history have attempted to solve the problem of suffering by claiming that this reality in which we suffer is only a transitional stage to another, better reality, a true world in which suffering is minimized or eliminated. Examples of such true worlds are religious heavens or social or political utopias that are said to exist on the historical horizon. Such worldviews attempt to give meaning to suffering by promoting the idea that if we endure our present suffering, we will find redemption in a future reality devoid of suffering. But the fatal flaw in these so-called solutions is that they devalue this earthly reality and the present moment in favor of another reality or future moment, whose existence we must take on faith. The concept of beyond, of the true world, was invented to devalue the only world that exists, to leave no purpose, no reason, no task for our earthly reality. Nietzsche, Ecce Homo. In contrast, Nietzsche's ethics of power offers a down-to-earth solution to the problem of suffering. If we accept power as the highest human value, the value that is most conducive to individual flourishing, then we must also value resistance, which enables us to increase our power. Suffering is defined as resistance. It is the experience of pain or discomfort due to an obstacle in some form. Therefore, if we value strength, we must also value suffering, as it is a necessary ingredient of strength. Or, as Nietzsche explains, as people do not seek pleasure and do not avoid trouble. What people want is an increase in power. Driven by this will, they seek resistance. They need something to oppose it, unpleasantness. As an obstacle to their will to power is therefore a normal fact. People do not avoid it, they rather constantly need it. Nietzsche, the will to power. Nietzsche's worldview does not require any leap of faith, and it does not encourage us to place our hopes for salvation in something external, whether it be a god, science, politician, or political or religious ideology. It is a worldview that offers a compelling and sober solution to the problem of suffering, and it promotes a life of meaning and productive action that functions as an antidote to the passivity that has infected the spirit of modern civilization. Therefore, if we choose to participate in the circle of power, or what is a cycle of constant self-excellence, we will contribute to the realization of our potential and cultivate the great happiness and great health. That is the privilege of the power seeker. Satisfaction arises where there is a sense of power, happiness, in the triumphant consciousness of power and victory. Nietzsche, the will to power, or as he wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and life itself entrusted me with a secret. Look, it said, I am that which must always surpass itself. Nietzsche, Thus Spoke Zarathustra,